second installment of why leaders turn to sin. In this one, we're going to read about why the repeated pattern of failure and modern parallels in the Middle East. Why the repeated pattern of failure? The Bible attributes the persistent failure of Israelite leaders and the people to several factors, all stemming from human nature and the lure of idolatry and power. The frailty of human nature. The most foundational reason is the inherent human tendency towards sin. Power corrupts. One Jewish perspective suggests that in the biblical account of a leader's sin, Leviticus 4, verse 22, implies leaders, due to their power and wealth, are almost inevitably going to sin. Idolatry and worldliness. The leaders and people are often tempted by the surrounding Canaanite and other pagan cultures, adopting the worship of false gods like the Baals and the Asherah, and their immoral practices, a clear violation of their covenant with God. Lack of faith, silent reliance on self. Many leaders fell because they chose to rely on military alliances, political maneuvering, or their own wisdom instead of faithfully trusting in and obeying God. For example, King Ahaz. Pride and power. The immense power of kingship led to pride, which manifested as oppression, injustice, and a disregard for God's law. Example, King Ahab and his wife Jezebel. Modern parallels in the Middle East. When comparing biblical leaders and contemporary leaders in the Middle East, such as those in Iran, Iraq, or Syria, it's important to remember that such comparisons move from a theological, religious narrative to a geopolitical and secular context. However, certain broad themes of leadership are often noted in analysis. The corruption of power. The concept of power corrupting leaders is a timeless and universal political observation, often cited in discussions of totalitarian regimes or authoritarian governments. Leaders in Iraq, Iran, historically Saddam Hussein, and Syria, Bashar al-Assad, have been accused by international bodies and opposition groups of human rights abuses, corruption, and ruling through fear and brutality. The intersection of religion and politics. In the biblical narrative, sin often means disobeying the divine law. In modern nations like Iran, which is a theocracy, leadership is intertwined with a specific religious, political ideology. Critics of the Iranian regime often view its policies, such as suppression of dissent, promotion of proxy militant group, and harsh social control, as forms of political or moral evil. Idolatry of the state or self. A spiritual parallel could be drawn between the biblical sin of idolatry, worshiping false gods, with the modern idolatry of the state, absolute power, or a leader's personality cult. When a political system places its own power and authority above all else, it can lead to tyranny and disregard for human dignity, which many observers find evil in a moral sense. It is a common human tendency to evaluate contemporary political figures through historical and even religious lenses, noting how the temptations of power can lead any leader to abuse authority. It asks, would I like to explore the story of a specific biblical leader like King David or King Solomon in more detail? We'll get to that in the next installment. Thank you and God bless.